It's Aneesa Getaneh. They was doubting by my calling, now they peeping away.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Pretty and Profitable podcast. And today we're going to talk about a principle, perceptive. This one is going to be a little spicy, so I want you guys to stay tuned. We have a special guest, LaTonia, who is absolutely amazing, and I'm going to let her introduce herself. LaTonia, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
Tell the people about yourself.
Well, I'm LaTonia Taylor, affectionately known as the Rev Coach, the Juicy Spirit Mama, the Priestess of Purpose, Pleasure, Passion, and Profits.
Ooh, love it.
I am really, I would call myself more of a rebirthologist because I use transformational psychology to do soul therapy, to really help women around their mindset in relationship to love, sex, and money. So I turn blind spots into breakthroughs.
We love it. She covered everything.
Well, you know why? Because love, sex, and money is taboo.
Yeah, it
And
is.
that's where a lot of our hidden blocks are.
And treasures.
And treasures.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes.
A lot of times where the blocks are is where we should be digging.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
So you wear many hats. Can you talk to me about some of the roles that you serve in?
Sure. So many people have seen my work on Iyanla Fix My Life.
Okay.
However, I've been in this field for over 20 years of transformation, processes, healing, rituals, rites of passage for women. I do consider myself multi-purpose. And the reason I know that I've known that I was multi-purpose for a very long time, but we are often conditioned in business to fit into a niche. And I think that I appeal to women who are also multi-purpose because I am a minister. You know, I am more of a spiritual midwife than just a coach, you know. So that is, you know, and then I have a whole professional life, you know, that I come from, you know.
It's so much power, you guys, in knowing who you are.
God.
And just being unapologetic about it.
Yes.
Because people say you have to do this, but that may work for a lot of people. But then you have someone like LaTonia and myself where I really can't be put in a box.
Yes.
It's really hard.
Yes.
And that sometimes is God has a purpose for someone to do one specific thing sometimes. And then you have other women, like the Proverbs 31 woman, where she is all around, you know, handling business, taking care of home, taking care of people. And so you do have people that don't fit into that niche, like you're saying.
And you know what? The Proverbs 31 woman, when we look at the 3 and the 1, you get 4. And so when you get that, that's multi-purpose to touch all 4 corners of the earth, right? So who said we were supposed to just be one way all the time? We go through seasons. That's why I call it rebirthology, because it's not a one-time event. And I certainly have a testimony of not having one event. It's one event that opened the way for the next.
Yes. I like that you talked about the 4, because there's 4 stages of the butterfly. You weren't a butterfly.
Yes, I am butterfly. I'm that butterfly.
The 4 stages, right?
Yes.
So there's the first stage, which is the caterpillar that has no evidence of who it's going to become. And the caterpillar has to sit on a particular leaf. It has to eat a specific leaf. Its diet is very specific. And it has to eat 10 times its normal weight. And then the second stage is when it goes up and it goes upside down, which is a very uncomfortable position, right?
Yes.
And then the third stage, which is called the pupa stage.
Yes.
Pupa in Latin means pain, right? And that's when the caterpillar is actually kind of vomiting up the thing that's within it.
Yeah.
So at the second stage, the first stage, second stage, and third stage, there is nothing that it needs other than what's already inside of it. Right?
Yep.
And then that third stage, the pupa stage, it starts to wrap itself.
Yes.
Right? In that stage, scientists say that if they abort the process or someone cuts the cocoon, that caterpillar that's transforming into a butterfly will never be able to fly.
That's right.
So the pupa stage, I feel, is the most important stage. All of them are important.
Yeah.
And we can't abort any of the stages. But the pupa stage, actually, the cocoon is going like this.
Yep.
It's shaking.
And that is where my book Juicy was born from. Well, really my process, Juicy.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Juicy is, and in fact, the women who've gone through my rites of passage program, they are called juicy butterflies.
Wow, I didn't
And
know that.
oftentimes people only look at the sensual part of juicy. Women who may be attracted to the sensual part, but the spiritual part, the transformation part, the rites of passage part, the healing part, the liquefaction, that's the part of the process
Yes.
that I bring to the butterfly.
That's
And other
awesome.
women who are looking to, become
That's
butterflies.
awesome. Do you
Yeah.
see how? You
Yes,
see that?
indeed. I love it. I love it.
But that stage, that pupa stage for women, a lot of times we're trying to jump out of it,
Yep.
right? And then we realize, we look back years later and we're trying to figure out, why haven't we got to this point, or well, we jumped out of our pupa stage.
Yes.
Right? And we can't abort that stage. It's a very tight, dark space. But they said that, the scientists say that within that stage, the butterfly is actually going like this. It's strengthening its wings. The only thing that can strengthen the wings is the tight space.
I love
Right?
it. Yes.
And then the fourth stage is, it's coming out of the cocoon, right?
Yes.
Completely transformed, not
Yep.
looking the same.
Yep.
And there's something about transformation that the other caterpillars can't. Like, you have people that are still caterpillars in your life,
Yep.
and they look, at the butterfly, and they're like, well, you used to. But we're supposed to, nature shows us that if we just follow its natural pattern, we're supposed to be transforming, changing,
Absolutely.
renewing our minds,
Right.
constantly.
Exactly.
And then that fourth stage is interesting because the butterfly still can't fly yet because the wings are wet.
That's right.
So it has to stand there and let the wind blow to dry its wings.
That'll preach.
We need
that'll preach,
the
honey.
wind. The wind has to blow, even with a tree.
Yeah, it makes me think about how it takes me to rebirth as well. Because Nicodemus said, "Shall I re-enter my mother's womb to be born again?"
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And in that same verse, they talk about the winds that blow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But we don't want the winds to blow.
No, we just want the rebirth.
We want to look like the butterflies.
Yes. Yes.
But not go through the process.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there is a process.
There is is it a process? That's my testimony.
And we can't abort it.
That is my testimony.
Mm-hmm.
And I could have been aborted in many places because, when we have unhealed trauma,
Yes.
or overcompensation is what I also call it. There's a lot of overcompensation for women right now.
For us.
Yeah.
Yes.
Overcompensation, performance anxiety,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and it's rewarded.
Mm-hmm.
And so, unfortunately, a lot of women don't get a chance to see that they were that butterfly in that pupa stage because it looks like something else.
Yes.
Something else becomes your crutch.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Your wings were wet.
Yes.
But you have the illusion that you're flying.
Exactly.
And it could be the ring, right?
Mm-hmm.
It could be the things that you
Yes.
that you achieve,
Yes.
and the people that you're in association with.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're empty,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I talk about that in the book. I talk about this identity crisis that women go through.
yeah,
I'm going to get into it right now. But I talk about, the book is really about identity, becoming the woman that can do the thing, right?
yeah,
We're taught to do first, and then once you get there, to become,
yeah,
right? But it's really the opposite. It's really that we should become first, right? But we have this identity crisis because we're told that, that you're valuable if you're a wife. You're valuable. So we're pursuing these titles.
Yep.
When I thought about, I was telling women, those are accessories.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you become a wife, good. If you don't, you're still valuable.
Yep.
If you become a mom, good. But if you don't, you're still valuable.
Yes.
Being a mom, like, you will ask a woman, who are you? And they'll say, well, I'm a mom of this and I'm a wife of that.
Absolutely.
And then you ask them again, well, who are you? Well, I'm an architect and I'm an engineer.
Exactly.
You are not who you're attached to. You
Yeah.
are not what you do. You are exactly
Absolutely.
who God said you. And we have to get back to that part.
Yeah.
And so you find a lot of women, like you said, they're like highly driven more because they don't know who they are. They
Yes.
think they're going to discover it at the top.
Yep.
And it's like, no, baby, it's at the bottom.
Yeah.
It's at the bottom.
And the worst thing is when you marry in that state of mind,
Yes.
you have children in that state of mind, and then you can spend years in that state
Creating a picture.
because you never ever dealt with identity, who you really are. And quite frankly, sometimes who we really are scares us.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's so much beauty, so many colors so many women have that just have not been allowed to be free.
Yeah.
And so when we take on those mindsets of, well, I am this, I do this, oftentimes it's a program that was inserted in us. I call it the good girl program for many people.
I love it.
Yeah, it's the good girl. The good girl is she is
Ooh.
not our ally. She may have kept us out of trouble, from getting in
But
trouble.
she's lost.
But she is not our ally.
Ooh, you know I'm a pastor's daughter.
Okay, come talk about it.
And I was the typical.
Were you?
Oh, yeah. I was. I mean, but this is one thing that I was just thanking God in complete gratitude. At 9 years old, I remember exegeting the text, Greek and Hebrew, had my concordance, my vines, and all of that. I didn't know what I was doing. My mom just taught it to me. And I had taken this class where I had to approach, it was a Christ Ambassadors where we had to teach people about Jesus. So I was talking to adults. And I say that the scriptures is like my second language almost. I know and I understand things from the scriptures. But there was a time that I started to rebel from the scriptures because I felt that it was oppressing me.
Yeah.
So I was the virgin in high school, went to college and wowed out, because I didn't have the antennas. So even my choice in men was like, oh, they like me, they're nice.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Right.
Because I didn't get a chance to exercise.
Right.
But yeah, I didn't really embrace like the good girl thing. I, at 9 years old, really loved God.
No, I totally get it.
Yeah.
Because I have a similar story. I didn't wild out in college. I actually, well, let me tell you, in psychology, you know that when we have phases that we are designed to go through.
Okay.
And when you don't complete phases, you revisit them. So when we don't live out adolescence, young adulthood, discovering, exploring, what happens is when we get back to 40s and 50s, they call it a midlife crisis. No, it's not. It's you returning to finish incomplete cycles of development. Now, some people check out of here before they get a chance to fully develop, and that's the toxicity, the trauma, and that's right. But when you don't have those complete cycles, you will revisit them. So that's not even really just a good girl. It really is organic and by design.
It's our stages.
Yeah, it's those stages. So for me, similar, like I was a good girl in another way. I loved God. I fell in love with God too. I thought, hey, if you read the Bible from cover to cover, it guaranteed you a place in heaven.
Right,
and you know what I mean?
Right.
And so I went to college, and while everybody was getting ready to wild out, I was having some other kind of spiritual experience. And I accepted another religion, which I changed my dress, I changed my diet. So I still followed a religious format. And so when I say I've been born again, I really have been. I've had many rebirths. But I also had to let something die.
You have to.
I had to let the old belief system, the religiosity, the dogma, the fear
Yes.
of being put in a heaven and a hell. I had to let that die
Yes.
so that the true Christ consciousness of love could be born in me, as me, through me, right? And so, and then, you know, I've gone on to study other things as
Yes.
well. And so I was that chick too,
Yeah.
right? Like I got married at 19. You know, because I was still
You was
following.
following it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to. You don't want to burn.
And I didn't have sex with my husband until we got married.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do that again, but
You don't want to burn. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so I talk about on the podcast a lot the word believe, that you have to amen, AMAN, which is to confirm before you amen, AMEN. So AMEN actually derives from amen, which is to confirm. You have to believe before you have faith. But you talked about believing, and believing is one of those things that you can't be double-minded in. You have to literally, one thought has to die in order for you to make the commitment to surrender to the new thought. And that's what belief is. That has to go so I can walk in that.
Yeah, because we don't choose a lot of what we believe, but we can choose.
We don't challenge it.
New beliefs.
We don't challenge it.
So old beliefs have to. You cannot put new wine in old wineskins. And so so a lot of people, when you study belief, though, it really is the absence of knowledge. Belief is not knowledge.
No.
Other people have to inform what you're saying you believe. But to know is it's the same. You know, when the scripture talk about knowing, they're talking about you have to make love to that thing.
Yes.
It has to enter into you.
You have to digest
It's
it.
an intercourse, right? So many of us are specializing in belief, being believers.
Yes.
But what about being a knower?
Yes.
See, Noah, oh girl, don't hit that thing. So when because when you look at the etymology of words,
Yes.
they may not be spelled alike, but if they sound alike,
Noah.
when you go to come on now.
He knew.
So when he knew. What is it that Noah knew? So Noah had to act when everybody called him crazy.
Yeah.
So we're in this season right now where we have to shift from being believers to knowers, and that's why the media programs us on what to think. That's why we don't know how to farm vegetables.
Yes,
We don't know. We
yes.
don't know how to make our kitchen our medicine cabinet, because we're still letting outside influences program who we
Yes.
are. When grandmama them
told you.
grandmama them.
Yes. That castor
We look
oil.
we look down on them,
Right.
but they knew something
Yes.
that we didn't know.
Right.
But it's in our DNA.
It is.
Yeah, we can call it
And
forward.
Noah had to be instructed by God on what to do.
Yeah, that's right.
What type of wood, the measurement, and all of that. And a lot of what we know is really God instructing us.
Yes.
It's not, sometimes it's not prior knowledge.
Yeah.
The wisdom that you have, it could have been an experience, but it was God giving insight to it, telling you this is what this was.
Yes. And that's the job of a coach, of a masterful coach, is to pull out of you what is already in you.
there.
If you are working with somebody and they're giving you all the answers and they're telling you have to do their formula, and then you beat yourself up if you're in business. I don't know if we're going to talk about business, but if you're in business and you're living somebody else's formula, that works for a little while. But when I was a child, I spoke as a child. When I'm all grown up, I put away childish things. That doesn't mean that I'm not coachable, trainable, and teachable. What it means is that I'm able to run it according to my design.
To who you are. Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what you've been talking about recently, which is forgiveness.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Okay.
Tell me about it.
So forgiveness is it's a powerful subject.
Yeah.
It is a spiritual cleanser.
Yeah.
In my training, in my understanding of forgiveness. And I believe that we are in a season based on what's happening on the earth right now and what's happening in the cosmos, where forgiveness is going to be a spiritual cleanser for us to make room for the next thing, for new
Yes.
beliefs.
Yes.
Forgiveness can make room for new beliefs. Forgiveness makes room in your heart to love,
Yeah.
because when your heart is shut off and closed off, nothing can come out, nothing can get in. A lot of people think that specializing in cutting people off is some show of strength. It actually is really just a prayer to ask for it to show up again in another way.
Wait a minute. Because I done cut some people off now.
Well, when you unconsciously cut people off
Unconsciously.
yeah,
Okay.
when you unconsciously cut people off without first of all, forgiveness is for you first.
Yes. Yes.
And I think that it is the most mistaught principle in churches
Absolutely.
all over
I can speak on that. Absolutely.
the country,
Absolutely.
because they throw it out there,
They don't tell
and
you
then
how.
there's no how, and
Yes.
it is a process to forgiveness.
Yes.
And if pastors are not trained to teach it, they shouldn't do it.
Yes.
They should leave it to people who are trained
Yes.
to facilitate
Yes.
forgiveness processes.
Yes.
And it is not just I forgive myself from a mindset of I did something wrong.
Yeah.
No, forgiveness is I'm forgiving the belief
Yeah.
of whatever. I forgive the belief that I did anything wrong. I forgive the belief that they did anything wrong at a certain point.
Right.
I mean, so there's several layers of forgiveness that actually frees up space.
Yes.
Particularly when it comes to our abundance, our prosperity.
Yes.
Sometimes one of the reasons we're not winning in business, or we end up being betrayed in business or broken in business, is because we have so many issues of the heart. And many of there's a generation now that if you don't hurt their pockets, you can't even have access to their heart, their mind, their spirit.
It is so true.
So when your profits are slow, or you're not getting where you want to go, oftentimes the kind of work I do with spiritual business owners is we check in there.
Right. What's going on?
Yeah.
What's the flow?
It's nothing is just happening.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yes. Well, my forgiveness, that was actually, I would say, the first lesson that I learned that I remember as a child. That was something that that was kind of put on me, in the sense of I had found out that my uncle killed my father. Now, by the time I found out, my uncle was everything. I loved him. So when I found out, it was a hit. Like, whoa.
Yeah.
You know, it was a hit.
Take your breath away.
Because I had been told, oh, this person robbed, and a lot of the story was true. I just always questioned, well, what happened to the person that killed my dad?
Wow.
It was just, I just never got that answer. But what happened one day is, it was right after, so I'm from LA, and it was right after Nipsey died. It was actually, I was in Africa when he died, and I got all these messages when I came back. Came back home, and I was sitting there in the quiet, just sitting there, and I started to hear something, right?
I love it.
And what I heard was, I need you to go back and get what's yours, right? And there was a few other things that I heard clearly that I had never heard, didn't have any knowledge of. And I called my grandmother and I said, this is what I heard. I said, I believe it was my father speaking to me. And so I called his wife and I told her exactly what he said. And she says, that's your dad. I said, but what does she mean, go back and get what's yours? You know, so I end up like digging deeper and discovering that Nipsey and my dad died the same day. So I was completely like, I remember when he died, I remember just this immediate anxiety that came over me. But the worst part was they kept replaying the video of him dying, and he was killed by someone he knew. right? And so it was like an immediate like like almost like a opening of this knowledge that I had. So mind you, at 18 I found out my uncle killed my father. Continued a relationship with him. Loved my uncle. We talk almost every week a lot, right? Loved my uncle. But it was at 18 that I had to learn to forgive.
And
right?
what's your relationship with your uncle now?
We talk every week. Like,
Because he had a story, didn't he?
he just recently told me the story, but because he was 21, my dad died at 23. His father, my grandfather, died at 23. The same way. His friend killed him. And so imagine, once you discover these layers, imagine how I view friendship.
Oh,
You know what I mean? Like, imagine how the work that I have to do to embrace friends or a brother or a sister. You know what I mean? And so I didn't find all of that out until my 30s. So I'm 38. I found out when I was about 31. The
Okay.
details, but I knew at 18. So all that time I had forgiven my uncle. I loved, it was the first lesson, a hard lesson that I had to, deal with. But then it came up again when Nipsey died, because I visually saw someone that knew him kill him. Same day as my dad.
same date?
Same date
Yeah, okay.
as my father.
Okay.
Same neighborhood. Same.
wow.
My dad was very much the Nipsey of his time. Like, when he died, they had blocked off the streets on Slauson and Western. It was a huge church that was there. My dad was a street pharmacist. And I remember them blocking off the streets because it was so many people coming from all over the world for my dad's funeral. And
Like
it was,
Nipsey.
so I was reliving it again.
Yeah.
I was reliving it, and I couldn't express to anyone what was happening. But
Deja vu.
I could not express it, but the go back and get what was yours came up. And so I ended up sitting at Hilltop. It was a cafe that all people from LA go to. And the guy that had designed the Marathon store, we used to have coffee there. He now works for Apple and stuff like that. But he sat with me one day and he says, I said, has Nipsey been talking to you? Like, have you gotten any messages? And he was like, yeah, and so we were talking about the spiritual aspect of hearing from our ancestors, and
Yeah.
that people.
I was just trying to let you finish
Woo,
this.
right? And so he says to me, I said, so I told him, I said, yeah, I found out that this was the same date that my dad died. And you can Google it. Like, I Googled my dad's death because he was killed at a restaurant. And after that, they shut down the restaurant. And so, so we talked, and he's from Ghana. And I said, this is the message that I heard. I heard, go back and get what's yours. He says, sister, he said, that's what we use in Ghana. It's Sankofa.
Yeah.
Sankofa means go back and get what's yours.
Have you seen the symbol?
Yeah. Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Oh, this is it.
Yeah.
Right? But I talk about this, you never know where they're coming from, right? And forgiveness was the first lesson that I learned at 18, and how do you love someone that has changed your whole life? Like, I went from private school to public school because the person that, my dad was the financial, breadwinner of, and going from a man that, that was, pick me up every day, to now I'm waiting for my mom to pick me up because she's working late. Just all of these things to go and actually, let me tell you when it happened. The day before, so the me hearing everything, go back and get what's yours, was the day before my uncle's 50th birthday.
Well, so,
And I went to his 50th birthday.
So the diviner in me is hearing so much.
Yes.
Right now. Like, I love your story.
Yeah.
But we have medicine in our story.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes our ancestor is speaking.
Yeah.
And so one of the ways that, when I work with women to do readings is the date.
Oh, yeah.
So I would look at that date.
Yeah.
Right. And see what that also offers. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
we'll talk later.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I would look at that date. And
But I didn't know the date. It was when Nipsey died. It was it was like,
You don't have to know.
it was like so traumatizing for me.
Yeah.
I had just, like, before I went to Africa, I went over there to the store, and Adam, which is his cousin, used to drop me up. He used to pick me up from school all the time in high school. College. And I went and I was like, hey, I'm about to go to Ethiopia. Do you guys want anything? Do you need anything? He's
Wow.
like, and so I had just like,
Yeah,
went
but
through,
that's definitely not coincidental.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
another type of conversation in
Yes.
my opinion. It's so far from forgiveness,
Yes.
but it is
Yes.
definitely connected to your story
Yes,
of
it was the
forgiveness.
vehicle.
Yeah,
It's a vehicle.
it absolutely is vehicle.
Yeah.
There are vehicles like that.
Yes.
But that forgiveness really, the forgiveness aspect of being able to release
Mm-hmm.
whatever attachments to something being taken from you.
Yes. Let me tell you what he said recently, a conversation, and I had called Cole because I was just blown away by what my uncle said. He called me one day. He says, "Hey, Nunu." Nunu. That's what my dad called me. Hey, Nunu.
That's a New Orleans thing too.
Yeah, we're
He
from,
from
yeah,
Louisiana.
yeah.
I know it, honey. I know it. I know my people.
Yes. So he said, "Hey, Nunu." He says, man, he said, all this time I had a clearance. He had a clearance to go through the airport because he used to own trucks. He had a trucking company years ago, and you had to have like a clearance to go through the airport. And he said, I've been traveling about 20 years and I didn't realize I still had this clearance. I didn't have to take off my shoes and do this and do that. So he's talking about this. He said, but when I got the background check years ago when I did the truck driving, they said there was something on my record, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he says, yeah, they said it was something on my record. And my mind already knows what was on there.
Yeah.
My brain is telling me, right? But I'm letting him walk through this, right? Because my desire is to continue a relationship with him. Because that's all that I have of my father. I'm like, however he wants to process and telling me, however he wants to tell me, and we can walk through it. So he says that, and he says, and then he tells me the day that, they got arrested, never had any prison time because it was the brother. And, he's telling me all of this, and he says, it was a man that stood next to me in court, and he says that the man said, just say exactly what I'm telling you to say. He says, I never seen this person before, and I never seen him again. I just repeated what he said. He said, and then the guy, he says, I was there, I was the last person, and then they said, not guilty, and they let me out. He says, I was so nervous, so I walked down the hall. He said, I thought they were going to like shoot me in the back or something. He says, but man, like, so he's talking about this thing as a miracle. And so I told him, and so he says, no, he says, do you think that, he said, when you think about Pharaoh, he said, when the locust came and Moses told Pharaoh to let my people go, he says, do you think that it was a miracle that, when the locust came to Pharaoh? And he said, do you think that it was something, do you think that Pharaoh thought it was something that happened to them? And I said, yeah, of course, for Pharaoh, it was something that was happening to him. But to the Israelites, it was a miracle. But he's talking to me, not knowing what he's saying. So I stopped him and I said, Uncle, I said, do you understand what you're saying to me? And he says, no. He was like, yeah, I'm just saying, like, he's not associating his story of getting out of jail and never being charged. Mm-hmm. To what the parable or the story. And I said, your miracle is my devastation. And he was just like, and so I told him, I said, I think that it's time for me to tell this story because the love that I had for him was protecting the story.
Oh, absolutely. And that's
I didn't want to say.
No, but so sometimes, so forgiveness is not always that the offense happened to you.
Yes.
Right? So sometimes we're carrying the water of other people, other situations in our family, other opinions of people.
Yeah.
and not only that, who said that you were supposed to be angry or that you were supposed to be traumatized?
Why am I
Who,
subscribing to that?
right. Who
Right.
said that that's supposed to be what you're loyal
Yeah.
to?
Yeah.
So forgiveness is a lot of
It's deep.
things. It's a lot of things, and it's a process, and it's not a one. It's like I say,
It's not a
rebirth.
one-hitter quitter.
It's not a one hitter quitter.
You keep
Right.
discovering.
You right.
Yeah.
And like you said, you had a trigger
Yeah.
that took you back into
Oh,
that
boy.
trauma. You can have a trigger that reminds you, oh,
Yes.
wait, there's residue here.
Yeah.
So let me go back into process. Once you have the tools, you can reuse the tools, or sometimes you may have to go deeper, and there's ways to do that. The other piece that I've been teaching on lately that is the twin of forgiveness,
Okay.
and I know you know this, but as a PK, which I still want to know how your dad was a street pharmacist and a
Stepfather.
oh, got
I
it.
don't call him stepfather ever.
Okay,
It's just
got
hard to
it.
say.
Oh, okay.
No.
No, that makes sense.
Yes.
But this twin of forgiveness
Yeah.
is
But
atonement.
there's a lot of those street pharmacists turn.
Oh, no, I know.
So it's possible.
Oh, it's totally possible. I just didn't know if it was at the same time.
No.
But yeah, so the twin of forgiveness is atonement. And a lot of times situations when women have breakdowns with other women, when we have breakdowns in our family, it's not enough all the time just to say I'm sorry, but you don't know what you're saying I'm sorry for.
Yes.
Or you just pretend like nothing's happened.
Oh, I can't.
Because time has passed. You're asking for it to happen again. Even if it doesn't happen with the same person.
Yes.
When you don't get the lesson, when you have, so there's even steps. So after.
Ooh, wait a minute. Hold on. Ooh, wait. Whoa. Okay.
What I say?
You said, so when you're acting like it doesn't happen or it hasn't happened, you're asking for it to happen again.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
That is how we pass down trauma in families.
Absolutely.
Oh, I'm going to cry.
It's okay. That's exactly how we pass down trauma.
Oh.
This is how women pass down trauma to other women because we don't tell our stories.
No.
This is how we end up being mad with our daddies, don't have relationship with our fathers if mama is mad with them and aunties are mad with them.
Yeah.
And so when we pretend like something doesn't happen,
we do it in the Black community
so much.
And we don't understand what we're doing.
But it's okay. So that is a part of our collective trauma. If we're ever going to get out of the condition that we're in, we have to ask ourselves, how is it that we are so great, but this is our condition?
Yes.
So that means that there's been an injury.
Oof.
That means that when we were great, there was an abuse of power.
Yes.
When we were great, we treated the what we call the colonizer probably much like he's treating us. That's hard, a hard conversation. But it is necessary in this season for us to clean it up. If we look, we don't have generational wealth the way other people have it. No. Why? Because we're pretending like something didn't happen in the collective. We're pretending like we were not the perpetrators. And it's our job, the ones of us who are having aha moments like this, to say, okay, I am the thing that I prayed for. I'm the change that I want to see. You might not be able to talk to anybody in the family because the assignment is yours. A lot of times we're doing work for our family. We're the cultural custodians oftentimes. We're the ones that's shifting the genetics in our family. We're the ones. We're the Neo in the Matrix.
Yes.
And the oracle said, if I had told you We're talking about
Yes.
identity, right?
Yes.
If I
Yes.
had told you that you were the one, would you have believed me? If I had told you that the cookie or the plate or the cup or whatever happened in the matrix, it was going to fall, would you have believed me?
Yes.
No, because we have cognitive dissonance
Yes.
when it comes to believing that we are that powerful, that we are the one
Yes.
that we've been praying for.
Yes.
We are that.
We are it.
We are that one.
Yes.
Now imagine if I accept that. I'm not fighting against that. I'm not waiting for somebody else to do it.
Right.
That's the work that I do, sis.
You take the
soul
assignment.
surgery, because you're healing 7 generations forward and 7 generations behind you. That means I don't have to necessarily know my grandmother's name.
Yes.
I might, but guess what? Her DNA is in me.
It's in
Her
me.
stories are
It's
in
in
me.
me.
I don't have to know it. But if I just call to that energy,
Yes.
oh my God. Somebody, in the church we say somebody prayed for me.
Right. But we don't understand that outside of it.
We don't understand it outside of the 4 walls. And we condemn other people who step outside them, just like the prodigal son.
Yes.
The good son, the good boy stayed home, didn't he?
Right.
And he condemned, what is my brother doing? Basically, he's out there with the swine.
Yeah.
But he was collecting experiences that was refining him to be able to be in the position that was already his. Ooh, me and you, we.
Oh.
For someone who might, for someone who's watching who knows they have someone,
Yes.
something they need to forgive, what are some things?
So for people that are watching this, that know, I mean, forgiveness is a tough topic, especially if you don't have the tools and you don't have the people around to support it.
Yeah.
People acting like nothing happened.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to those people that are, maybe they know that they should forgive, but they haven't started? What are the things that they should be doing?
So, forgiveness, once again, the first thing, it is for you. So, acknowledge first that I'm hurt, I'm offended, I am upset, my feelings were hurt, I'm disappointed, that felt like betrayal. Whatever it is, acknowledge it to yourself out loud. A lot of times what we do when we're hurt is we go talk about it to other people. We gossip. We go to people who can't do anything about it.
Who can't walk you through it.
Now, when you do that on a job or in certain fraternities or sororities, that kind of thing can get you put out. But we don't have that kind of loyalty when it comes to to our own work, doing our own personal work. So the first part is being able to acknowledge it. If you do not have the tools, the next step is get them. There are books, but there are coaches. I'm doing a process really soon just for this season. And so when I do that process, we start with that form of acknowledgement. Because see, awareness is different from acknowledgement. See, I can be aware that I'm hurt. I don't like you. I don't like what you did. I'm aware. But to acknowledge it is to actually to state it. Now, a lot of times, particularly women in marriages, we want to go to the source of our upset. That's not always the optimal possibility, because other people could be toxic, or you could be placing your expectations that they have the resolution for you. And sometimes they don't. So reconciliation is more of a part of that atonement process. But to forgive is really deeply personal, to confess it to yourself, but also then now after I confess it to myself, that is when we get into the neuro-linguistic programming, where you literally can write statements where you're not just focusing on the person or two, the behavior. You can start there. But there's steps after the person and the behavior that has messages for you much deeper. Because most of the time, what is showing up showed up somewhere else before.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
until you get to the core
Yes.
of what that thing really
Mhm.
represents for you,
Yeah.
it'll show up in a different pair of pants.
Yes.
It'll show up in a
Absolutely.
different office.
Absolutely.
It'll show up in on a different stage for everybody that's trying to be seen and
Right.
social.
Yes.
Right?
Mhm.
It'll continue to show up. So there are steps in between, but when you get down to that core wound,
Mhm.
that's when freedom comes.
Oh yeah. It's so one of the things that I did, my mom's a life coach, so I don't know if she walked me through this. I can't tell you. But um there was a time where someone had offended me.
Hmm.
No one acknowledged it,
Yes.
right? But then God took me and he said, "You've done worse to me.
Yeah. How about that?
You've done worse to me," right? And I paused, and so he says, "So every time you think of them, say I forgive them." Every time the person came to my mind, I said, "I forgive you.
That's really
I forgive
good
you."
one. That's really
Like
good.
that immediately, but I can't think about what new thing I want to add to the table. Oh, you know what? And then but God had literally took me and he showed me, "Aneesa, you have done worse to me."
Yeah, I can give you a real life scenario that just recently happened in my life. I had a very, very good friend um, who came to me and said, "LaTonya, I was wrong. I hurt you. Please forgive me." Because a third party came into our friendship
Mm.
and created
Yes.
chaos
Mm-hmm.
and manipulated
Mm-hmm.
people for profits, not relationships, people for profits.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw the play being ran. As a seer,
Yes.
sometimes we see things long before other people do. Oh, girl, I know, right? I
Oh.
know, right? I know. You know how that feels.
And you're just like,
I know.
what am I?
It's lessons in that for me too.
Oh.
So I saw it, and we're talking
Yes.
about years.
Right. And so you don't know if this means next month.
I saw it. I tried to talk to the person
Yes.
about it.
Yes.
And she told me I could not see what you could see.
Yes.
And she said I had to live it.
Yeah.
Now, when she asked me for forgiveness, I could have easily, one, just said, "Oh, okay," because you're the good girl.
Right.
Okay, yes, she's saying she's
Right.
sorry.
Right.
Right?
Right. And we do that.
We do that. And I've
Yes.
done that.
Yeah.
And but I didn't say anything.
Yes.
But the other thing we do is gloat.
Yeah.
See, I told you, and even if you don't say it, it's a spirit.
Yeah.
I told you, and you did me like that. I've
Mhm.
done that before too when I've been angry and hurt. But this time, Spirit said, because again, I teach people their blueprint, and one of the things I'm learning as a manifesting generator is to wait to respond. Wait to respond sometimes means to digest. And so I said, "Can I get back with you? Let me digest." And the Holy Spirit reminded me of atonement. And I knew that in order for our friendship to stand on solid ground again, we had to make new agreements. So if you have forgiveness and you don't have new agreements with people, it's not clear. And that's how we could start. I know you deal with a little bit of money, right, and a little bit of credit, right? When sometimes we want to give people credit that they haven't rebuilt.
They haven't. Yes. And it doesn't do them any good.
Right, and the debt is not clear. Not really. So that means that one thing a person does, you're back at square one, right?
Exactly.
So so this is why forgiveness and atonement really do work together. And
Yes.
this is the season
Yes.
for us to clear and open those spaces.
Yeah.
It
you know
really
why?
is.
Because we have to. I think when we're not in the space to clear it, we cannot clearly hear from God.
We can't hear from God, but hearing from God sometimes is our life giving us feedback. It's not always a mystical event because our life is giving us feedback, and we may not know. Sometimes it can even be self-protection because when you've been hurt and traumatized, you become self-protected. We
Yes.
call it guarded.
Yes. Yes.
And so the idea that you should open again, be flexible and vulnerable can be scary. And this is where femininity comes in. Because how can we have the soft life, the soft era, the soft season of our womanhood and our femininity, and our heart is hard?
Yes. It's
Our
not
heart
possible.
is hard.
It's not possible. It's not possible.
We got
And
on red
honestly-
bottoms and black hearts.
And honestly, the ones that are guarded, I would say that they're not even attracted to the soft life. They're not attracted to it. They may want it, but they don't feel that it's something that they can do.
Well,
know?
I hear a lot of misogyny coming out of the mouths of women about the
true.
soft life, because the soft life is not an exemption or a pass.
No, absolutely not.
So it's not a way to, in order for us to get softer as women,
Gotta do the
we
work.
have to do the forgiveness work.
Oh, I said that in the book. I was talking about that. The work is necessary first. You can't desire something that you have not worked for.
Yes. And then that's where our feminine magnetism comes in, and we don't have to work as hard. We don't have to go hard, go home, balls to the wall.
I cannot
All
stand
of those
the boss
terms.
chick, by the way. I can't. I'm tired of her. I am tired of the boss
She's tired
chick.
of her.
She tired.
The boss chick is
She
tired
tired.
of her.
Yeah. So for the people that want to do the work
Yes.
and want to dive into your book,
Yes,
my
yes.
juicy
Rebirth.
Rebirth. Let me do it
Yes,
again.
yes.
So for the people that want to do the work and want to dive in,
Well,
tell them how they can find you.
yeah, well, so the first place is always start with the freebie.
Always. Yeah.
Start with the freebie,
Yeah.
and everybody who goes to download, shift everything, because I believe that you have to shift everything in order to make room for everything. And so start with the freebie, the
Yes.
download of Shift Everything.
Okay.
And then you can decide how you want to work with me, but you can go right to my bio. If you're watching, send me a DM and say, hey, I was watching, the podcast, and
Yes.
and I want to know more. I would prefer at this point to DM, because you know why? They DM me anyway.
Yeah.
I'll say link in bio, and
They still DM
they
you.
still
Right,
DM me
right.
anyway. But start there, and
Okay.
then if you want a reading, I really do something called your blueprint,
Okay.
because your blueprint will tell you how you forgive, how you don't, where you need to.
Yeah.
It'll tell you what ancestors are working right there in your court. And so it will tell you how you need to do business.
Yes.
And it will
That's
also tell you how to work with your femininity, because all of us don't necessarily have the design to know the femininity. It is something that we have to explore, because many of us have more of an imprint of masculinity, or what's
Yeah.
considered masculinity.
Yeah.
So, and nor is the feminine supposed to look like the same. Everybody's supposed to look the same.
It's no such thing as the same.
Right. So LaToniaTaylor.com if you want to invite me and to get to me. But the link in my bio on IG, Rebirth with LaTonia on IG, on all platforms.
So for the Pretty on Paper segment, I like to ask every woman that comes on the couch, what is one of their beauty secrets?
Besides good sex,
Ooh, that's a whole nother segment.
rose water.
Oh, okay.
Rose water is a great refreshing, but good sex is too.
2 minutes.
2 minutes
I mean, what's the length? What do we need to make it happen?
for good sex or rose
Yeah.
water?
Both. We have 2 beauty secrets.
So which one do you want me to speak on, good sex
Whichever
or
one you
rose
wanna
water?
talk about.
I really do think that pleasure is a beauty secret.
Okay.
I really believe that when a woman lives in her pleasure,
Mm-hmm.
not just sex,
Mm-hmm.
but when she's able to find pleasure
Yes.
the feel good of it
Yes.
makes her beautiful.
I believe that too. Absolutely. Listen, this was absolutely amazing. I wish we had more time. I really wish we had
We'll make more
We'll
time.
make more time.
We'll make more time.
So today we covered the principle of perceptive. We actually didn't even need an intro or an introduction. I think sometimes wisdom is something that is just something that comes out of your pores. It's something that you embody. So what we talked about today is really the embodiment of the profitable Proverbs 31 woman and the principle of perception, which is about her being wise. And so ultimately the goal in being this woman is to embody, to become, to have the essence of this woman, not to go down a to-do list.
Yes.
Not to just try to knock it out and do the quick work, but actually go through the process. And so we talk about that today, the 4 stages of the butterfly and how to, incorporate that in our lives, and just get her book. It's amazing. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.
It's Aneesa Getaneh. They was doubting by my calling, now they peeping away.